I want to start out by talking about something you've said in the past. You've said the way we think about ourselves turns into reality.
Mm,
The way
mm,
we think about ourselves turns into reality. You've
mhm,
also quoted Tony Robbins in saying that 80% of success is psychology, 20% is skills.
mhm.
How do those two big ideas contribute to the genesis of the name Transform Me? And also, in your mind, how do you think mindset affects success in today's economy?
Mhm, mhm. I think that's a beautiful question and a great question to start with because for me, I keep talking about everything starts with the mind.
Yes.
What's happening over there, and it is such a powerful tool that most of us have no idea what we're sitting with. It's a treasure we're sitting with. And my experience has basically been through my own journey, my own transformation. Of how I've used that, utilized it. In fact, the first 30 years, I didn't even think about mindset too much. It was more about the external world, what is expected, go with the flow, what people are expecting from you. And I think 10 years ago, I was a very, very different person. I know I was completely frustrated. I was an employee that felt that there was too much chaos happening in my life. I didn't know what the possibilities were. I felt stuck. I felt demotivated because I was just looking for possibilities externally. I was looking for opportunities externally. And when that doesn't happen, and we all know that that's not in our control, when that doesn't happen, we make meanings of our own self worth that we're probably not good enough or we're not successful, and that's how we're meant to be. And when I went through this deep spiral downwards, I said, hang on, this is not me. I want to do something about it. I want to stop it. And I just don't want to get into this space. And I said, let me look at what needs to happen. And at that time, I made frustration my friend uh, because for a long time I sat with it. And I said, you know what? It's not serving me. It doesn't seem to go away. What can I do with you sitting with me? And so both frustration and fear were, I think, my companions those days. And so let me see what I can do with you. And that's when I said, okay, I need to start taking control. And I got myself a life coach. And since then, it's been a 180-degree turn for me. I did a lot of work on mindsets, understood that the space I was in frustration was all because what I was thinking and what I was telling myself that I'm not good enough, or I don't have talents, or I don't think I can be a great public speaker because nobody would want to listen to me. And I had absolutely no proof. These are just stories I made for myself. And that's when I said, what if I change those stories inside and tell myself, until now, I haven't. What if I try something new? And that's when this whole cycle of reframing fear for me happened. So instead of running away or getting caged by fear, I used fear as my lighthouse. So when I was lost, I said, what am I meant to do with my life? So I worked for 13 years in different organizations, different roles from business development to quality to operations. I said, okay, now I'm lost. What am I supposed to do? And I looked at my fear, and my fear was, oof, you shouldn't be speaking in front of people. You can't train, you can't coach. Why would people listen to you? You're not good in finances, so don't even think of P&L or running a company. And I'm like, okay, let me try those and see what happens. And that became a big shift for me. And I just followed that. In 2012, I became an entrepreneur. 6 years later, I moved to Australia, opened a second office in Australia. We became the top 10 leadership companies in Southeast Asia. I spoke in 2 TEDx forums, so kicked off claustrophobia for myself. And I've had the privilege and the opportunity to coach some of the brightest minds in the world. So when I sit and coach these leaders, I think of my old self and say, would the old Sandra, would have even imagined that she'll be sitting in this position right now if I continued believing what I was telling myself. And that's a process I want to continue doing, continue checking in with the thoughts, with what I'm telling myself. Because honestly, that's changed for me. That's given me success. Not so much the skill set, not so much the network. It's what I told myself and executed. So for me, that's my biggest treasure sitting there, is how do I keep continuously working on the stories I tell myself and my mindsets.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And the idea of self-awareness being probably in our world today the most important skill for success, um, that that comes through with everything you're saying. And you spoke about getting a life coach. We have normalized investing in tennis coaches, in gym memberships. We invest in fitness trainers. We don't invest in coaches for our mind and our psychology and our life.
Mm.
What are your thoughts on how that can change or should change in the future?
That is so powerful, Pooja, what you just mentioned. We spend so much of money in getting ourselves physically fit to look the best externally, but we don't spend much on what's happening inside, which is 80%, what I keep quoting, is 80% of success. We look at coaches who can help us to speak well in public, or to do well at work, but nothing related to the mind, unless it's broken. When your mind is broken, then you go to a therapist or counselor.
Yes.
But if I'm okay, I still don't get a life coach. And I ask myself, what am I doing on this planet if not living?
Yes.
And what if you can make your life a masterpiece? Wouldn't you want that? And that's where life coach can help you. A life coach can help you make momentous shifts in your life. I've lived it. My life coach has created this version 2.0 of my life, which is poles apart from what I was living. And I don't think I would have done it alone, no matter what skill set or what courses I would have gone through. I think we need an external person to give us perspective, to check in with us, to hold us accountable, to show us the mirror. A person who's trained, who's experienced in human behavior sciences to help us fulfill that. And often I feel that we all have much more potential than we have ever imagined in ourselves. So if I think I can reach X and that's my dream, I feel we have a 10X potential.
Yeah.
And we don't know that. Unfortunately, we're not given a list when we're born of everything that we can do or what our potential is. We need to discover along the way. And wouldn't you want to discover it faster? Wouldn't you want to discover it more efficient? And that's where a life coach helps you in this whole process of discovery, this whole process of change and discomfort. Because I have a coach for myself right now. And even though I do a lot of work on mindsets and I've been coaching a lot, I still have days where, like, forget it. I don't want to do it. I want to go back in my comfort zone. It's too tough for me. And that's where the coach comes and helps you be accountable, motivates you, pushes you, and gets you back on your goal. And for me, that's really powerful because we can have a goal. And no matter how motivated we are, we'll have those days that'll bring us down. And so the coach helps us reach a journey which is 10x faster, helps us create a space of non-judgment, look at reflections, and help you also to see possibilities you haven't even imagined or dreamed. But one thing I want to always share, and I always share with most of my clients, the coach is there to give you all of that. But you won't get any of it if you don't do the work. Because all the work is done by you. And if you're committed and if you really want the goals, get your coach, you will get it. There is 100% guarantee you will get success. I've coached 10,000 hours. I've coached for the last 12 years. And I've never seen a single incident where if the client is not committed in doing the actions, they haven't reached success. And I have had most of my clients would come with a goal, which is a 10x or X goal, and we are reaching 10x in the whole journey. And that's the beauty of coaching and the space that we create.
Yeah. Earlier this year, you put on a workshop. It was called Mindset to Mind Flex. And in it, you talked about 6 big mind traps, you called them.
Yeah.
I want to talk about 3 in particular. One is harmony, the
Mm-hmm.
other is future thinking,
Mm-hmm.
and the third is ego.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love for you to expand on those. And let's talk about harmony first.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And before I talk about harmony, Pooja, I want to also give a little context on what are these mind traps.
Yeah,
Very often,
absolutely.
and I started with, I want to get rid of these mind traps. And that's what most of my clients also looking at. We want to get rid of the mind traps. And I want to clarify something, that the mind traps are there. It is designed. It's a biology. It's part of the whole physiology process. And what is a mind trap? Mind trap is, first, let's understand the science behind it. The brain is designed to protect us. If you've studied a little bit of brain, we know about the amygdala. We know how it is designed for millions of years is to protect this body.
Yes.
So any threat that the brain sees, I will try and block it or get you away from that. Now, obviously, we've evolved over time. So we're not in the forest. We're not getting attacked. We're not being eaten by sabers, but we still get emotionally threatened. And there's a certain part of our brains that sees that as a threat. So if I'm getting up on stage and I'm speaking, it's a threat. I don't want to take that opportunity. Why do I want to put myself in that position? If I have to take a new opportunity or move countries, that's a threat because it's causing fear, discomfort. So there is the amygdala or the mammalian brain that gets you away from it. But there's another part of you, which is the mind, which is, and Daniel Siegel writes this beautifully in this book called Mindsight. It's a space, it's a transcendental space of experiences, of information, and that wants to take you ahead, wants you to experience. And that's why humans are able to evolve much higher than any other species on this planet. Now, because your mind wants to take you ahead with new experiences and possibilities and fulfillments, and the brain is designed to keep you safe, you have this mind traps happening. It's a tug of war between, I don't think it's good, it's not safe, and no, I want to do it. This tug of war creates these traps. And these are the 6 traps I've picked up through my own learning and research. I'm sure there are many more. But what this does is we need to look at, is the trap serving me and serving my growth? So harmony is beautiful. A trap I usually start off with, because most of us feel harmony is good, right? We need to live in harmony with each other. We need to respect each other. But harmony can become a trap because it can create a sense of artificial harmony. And I'll explain that a little bit. Mm-hmm. Humans are drawn to agreement because this connection of being together helps us be safe. It's a force of survival. When we collaborate, it kind of makes up for our deficiencies. So we are wired for connection. And so when the neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman had done this groundbreaking research, and he mentioned that, and his research shows that our brains make us sensitive to social pain. He found that social pain, like being excluded or being rejected, is experienced in the brain in the same way as physical pain. So therefore, disagreements at work and family, it's so difficult to handle well because we have this aversion of pain. So I don't want to go through the social pain, which then pushes us towards artificial harmony. So I'm going to tell you yes, and I don't mean yes. I'm going to say, okay, forget it, when it's still brewing inside me. It's bubbling inside me. And that's when it becomes a trap, when people are trying so hard to be nice to each other that they're not willing to be honest. And this desire of harmony saps us from our courage. We lose courage to say the hard things, to experiment, to surface conflict. Sometimes you need to surface conflict to clear the air. And that kind of brings tensions in relationships and distrust in family or friends or even in organizations. Because we're getting into the space of, okay, I'll not say anything because it may upset you. And very often we do this lab work, and we call it lab because it's not a workshop. We get people in together and it's all experiments. And we do this for teams that don't get along together, or probably are dysfunctional, or they're too new. And we call this synergizing strengths, where we create a space of deep awareness. And our job is to create or at least surface conflicts. When we surface conflicts, then healing happens. And then while we're surfacing conflicts, we're encouraging honest dialogues. What you truly mean, what you're feeling, self-awareness, what's happening in your body when you see this person or the conversation's happening. And when that's all released in a sensitive conversation, there's a massive shift that happens in energy for that group. The group comes together. There's tremendous courage. People are being vulnerable. We've had incidences where colleagues haven't spoken to each other for 3 years sitting in the same cubicle, 3 years, because of something that they've held on. And then they've spoken for till 3 a.m. in that workshop, 3 a.m. They wouldn't want to walk out of the workshop till they kind of closed all the loops they were carrying for those 3 years. And that's the beauty of realizing that I'm falling into an harmony trap, and having conflict, having courageous conversation sensitively helps us move out of that space.
Yes. It's also an individual opportunity for growth. There's a great quote from General Colin Powell. He says, trying to get everybody to like you is a sign of mediocrity. And this is a related idea that as long as we want harmony, we want people to like us, we want others to admire or just want our friendship, that also holds us back as individuals. Yeah. And keeps us in the average. Yeah. And that gets me thinking about the personal growth aspect of that, as well as what you're talking about, the growth of an organization.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. I also loved your ideas of future telling. And I think so many of us are caught in this one. Mm-hmm. This idea of making up stories about what will happen, what can happen, and creating anxiety for ourselves about a future that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Can you expand on that?
Absolutely. And before I do that, I want to share that I truly believe in the power of visualization. I truly believe in looking to the future and planning your life. For me, that's extremely powerful. So future telling is not about, don't look into the future, don't plan the future, it's not going to happen. It's not that. It's go ahead and plan, create your dreams, visualize, picturize, whatever you want to do, go ahead and do it. It becomes a trap. Again, like harmony, these names can be quite confusing. It becomes a trap when it stops you. When you have your dream and you said, you know what, I don't think I'm going to be successful. I don't think the time is right. Maybe when things get better, I'll start doing it. Let COVID finish. Let the lockdown open up. Let me feel healthier. When I start putting reasons around, and reasons that doesn't have too much data. If you don't have numbers, you don't have facts, you have more just thoughts and experiences and feelings, then I feel that you're falling into a future telling trap. A trap that's telling you, you know what, that's what the brain is telling you. Stay here, you're safe. Complacency is good. Keep doing the same thing again and again because you're doing my job, you're keeping yourself safe. And that's where, all your frustration and the other emotions, fear, frustration build up and they take over. So and this is natural. And I always tell people that you don't overcome it. You don't get rid of it. You overcome it. So don't expect that I've got this 3-step approach that I take people through, that I've done it for this incident. I'm not going to get through this again. The idea is, again, anything new that comes, it's your brain telling you don't try. So anything new in this life that you want to experience, you will get into your future telling trap. At that time, hold that trap and said, you know what? And I love the way one of my coaches does it. She's like, oops, I'm future tripping myself. And I love the way she said, I'm future tripping myself. I'm not going to continue this conversation anymore. Let me stop and see, okay, how can I make it happen? If you get to that stage, that's it. That's it. That's beautiful. You've overcome it. It's where you're catching it in the
Just
moment.
aware. Mhm.
Yes, away. Catching in the moment. I'm tripping myself. Put a pause. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, how could I be wrong?
Yes.
How could I be wrong with what I just said? And try something else. And that's it. It's as simple as stopping, checking, and reframing.
Yeah. Yeah. Just that skill of awareness, awakening
Yeah.
is it seems so trivial, yet very few of us practice it
True,
in
true.
daily life.
Yeah, yeah.
The
I also want to add one bit. Sorry, I want to add one bit to it. So sometimes it's not easy to get that awareness. It's a muscle you need to develop. And I also tell people, there is an alarm system in you if you can notice. And very often when you're thinking a thought, there are emotions that just pop up. So are you noticing an emotion, whether it's coming in your stomach or you're getting sweaty palms, you're feeling nervous about it? That's an alarm. Then you stop. Why am I feeling different right now? Why am I drying up? Why am I feeling nervous about this thought of going and taking this opportunity? And that could be noticing your body, noticing the emotions coming up. That could be a first step in saying, let me pause and see where am I wrong over here? And how can
yes.
I?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I love that the physical nature of a lot the signs are physical very oftentimes. Ego is so central to everything that we're talking about. And people get it wrong when talking about ego. They think, oh, ego is for someone who is at the top of the game and thinks they're better than everyone else. Ego's also found on the negative side, right? You can wallow in your ego. You can think that you're not good enough, that you have inferiority complex. So it swings both ways. And you said something very profound about ego. You said, protecting the people we have become is a full-time job. Protecting the people we have become, the person that we have become is a full-time job for us. I loved hearing that.
Mm, mm.
That that says so much about what we do all day is protect this identity, this whatever we are defining ourselves by. Can you expand on that? You gave so many examples previously. I'd love for our audience to kind of hear some of those real life examples that happen every day when ego is in play.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, a lot of people get, and you're right, a lot of people get confused with the word ego. Ego for me is somebody who's been there, done it, knows it all. We talk about inflated ego, but this doesn't mean that. And I also reframe it. I said, if you don't want to call it ego, and if that's confusing you a lot,
Yes.
call it protection trap. It's a protection trap because we're trapped by the image of ourselves. And why we trap with the image is because over the years we've done a lot of work to cultivate this particular image, right? We've worked out, we've picked up skill sets, we've networked, we've done uncomfortable things to show people the image of who I am. Whether it's a professional, whether it's a great mother who's waking up early in the morning and going for all the football, soccer matches, or gymnastic matches, I've worked hard. Now I want you to know that I'm a good mother. I've cultivated that. And so I'm going to invest a lot of time and energy showing up as that person, even though in days I just don't want to be a good mother. In days I don't want to be a great professional. But I have to keep showing up because I have to not defend that image I've created for myself. It becomes a protection mechanism. And guess what happens there? Because if we are shackled to who we are now, we can't reach for who we'll be next. So we stop our growth. This is who I am. I have caged myself as the image of, say, the perfect mother or the image of the perfect team member. That's who I am. My identity is blocked. And the challenge of holding on to our current self makes us turn away from learning and possibility. Like I had shared my experience earlier as well. This is who I am. And who I'm next, I wouldn't have even dreamt of. because we believe the big changes in our life has already happened, right? All my education, schooling, experiences, heartbreak, conflicts has all happened. So we don't see too many changes happening. So I'm trying to protect that and become the person who I am. And protecting that person nearly becomes a full-time job. So I love this book called Immunity to Change, written by Bob Keegan and Lisa Lahaye, and they clearly say it over this. They say in organizations, people are doing a full-time second job that they're not getting paid for. And that is spending time and energy covering their weaknesses or managing their impressions, showing themselves to the best advantage, hiding limitations, uncertainties, inadequacies. And we don't even realize we're doing that with ourselves. So yesterday I had this diagnostic call with a client and I'm asking them, so we are doing this session called Rewiring for Resilience. So I'm like, what are you feeling right now? Where are you struggling in terms of your mindset? What's happening? So all the stories I heard was outside in terms of the stresses and numbers and targets and how I need to meet. I can't, I can't disappoint this person. I can't be seen as a failure. I have to meet it. Even though I know I can't achieve the targets, I can't say no. So imagine the stress we are putting on ourselves, and the heartache and the disappointments that we're creating for ourselves. And all this comes out in signs of when we start becoming defensive, when we get feedback. That's again, I'm trying to protect my image. I mean,
Yes.
what did you mean that I didn't do it well? I mean, I can put in a question like, tell me more, but I'm exactly doing that. I'm trying to defend or blaming others or situation or the economy or getting triggered or irritable, angry, or we start gossiping. And what's worse is when we start substituting. So if I can't feel a certain way, I will probably get clothes or I'll get a car, I get a house because I want to live up to that image. And so I'm externalizing myself so much. And very often I feel that we are actually fighting against our own weakness and against our own shame. And that energy takes tremendous, tremendous effort.
Yes.
In fact, one of the classic mismatches of the human system is our relationship to our own vulnerability versus how we see vulnerability of others. So when I was talking about this lab and we get people to speak up what they're feeling or what's their fear when they interact with certain people in dysfunctional teams, it's difficult. It takes one whole day for me to prep them to start speaking up. But when they do, when they're opening up and sharing, they also share that I'm feeling a lot of shame when I'm sharing this about me because it's threatening my sense of identity. I'm showing how weak I am. But when I asked the others, so when you heard her speak, what did you feel? And all of them said, we feel admiration. We felt she had so much courage to share that. So we are ashamed of our humanity while others are drawn because of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very well put. And something we often don't think about. I feel this identity is is a very it's a concept I think that we don't realize is limiting. When you are trapped in wanting to be the the good mom or the working mom who's successful or the founder or the CEO or whatever label or um, title you need to prove to only yourself that you are in a certain place in the social hierarchy. What that does is limit your ability to be something more. And you
Yeah.
touched on that. And I think it's such a profound, important idea for people to start to come to understand about themselves and about how society would like us to think about ourselves.
Yeah.
So breaking free of that limiting belief of being so connected to an identity is so important. You talk a lot about Maslow's hierarchy, and I wanted to get into that a little bit. Obviously, we're in this pyramid with many different needs. We start out with our basic needs, our physiological needs of water, rest, food, then the safety needs, and then that goes on to our belonging and love needs, having intimate relationships, having friends. And then we get to this higher two needs, the esteem needs, where we want to feel like we have a sense of accomplishment in the world, that we have some kind of standing in the social hierarchy. And of course, what you and I are talking about, which is the pinnacle, the top of this pyramid, is the self actualization, being able to realize your full potential as a human, being able to thrive. And I think that's what all of us want to do, and particularly this audience. I got to thinking about that in prepping for this conversation with you, Sandra, and it got me thinking about this idea that we're at a state in humanity, in the Homo sapien existence, if you will, where we have unlimited almost resources and possibilities and opportunities to self-actualize like never before in the history of our species. At the same time, we have a need to fulfill our esteem that has never been this hard. We feel so much pressure to be valid, to be worthy, to be a success in the eyes of others, which prevents us from meeting that esteem need, that second to last need. It's interesting how we can't get to the top because we're going to be struggling with the esteem needs, the ego needs. I wanted to share that juxtaposition with you, and the consequence of economic growth and with technological growth, and how it's easier than ever before to self-actualize, but at the same time, it's harder because of these ego management problems that we have. I'd love for you to expand on that.
Sure. And I love the way that you've kind of looked at the hierarchy, that it's not exactly a step up, because there could be a step that actually traps you, or could be just the opposite. Just so if I'm focused on esteem, how do I move to the next level? It's interesting because we're also at a time where our lives, and I'm not even talking about celebrities, our lives have never been as public.
Yes.
And because it is so public and everyone's life is public, so I can see people more, there is a sense of, and I remember one of my wonderful mentors, and he's one of the best therapists that I've worked with, Yaron Seven. He says that I think the biggest disease of the 21st century is FOMO, the fear of missing out, because I'm seeing so much happening, people being successful, and people are always putting their best, right, on media, on social media. So because everything is best, I start believing it. And because they can do it, I need to do that. And so we get trapped. We get trapped in that esteem, and we forget there's the next step.
Yes.
That's my last step. I get stuck in that esteem. And that's what I talk about, ego and protection as well, is I want to create an image that everyone has. If he can do it, she can do it, I can do it. And when I do it, everyone looks at me and they get inspired by me. Isn't that tempting? And so we get trapped in that temptation of people wanting to be like me as well. And because I get trapped or seduced with that temptation of being seen as inspirational for somebody else, I am not inspirational to myself. I'm not inspiring myself. What is my purpose here?
Yeah.
And so I start living that life until a certain period where I'll fall into that, again, frustration trap, the fear trap. What am I doing? Feeling stuck. Because that's a process, because you haven't moved to the next level. And it is a natural flow of movement. And if you stop the natural flow and you get stuck at this level, there is going to be stagnancy and stalemate happening.
Yeah.
And that's where self-awareness becomes such an important tool. And unfortunately, I'm not seeing this being developed as a skill set.
Yeah.
working with hundreds of organizations and blue chip organizations. There's a lot of work on courageous presence. There's a lot of work on building partnerships, networking skills, storytelling, presenting to influence. No workshop on self-awareness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very
I
few
think
would have.
yeah, you mentioned it's the single biggest loss organizations suffer today is these problems with ego, a lack of self-awareness in
Yeah.
companies. So how much if we could quantify that, it'd be interesting to see the loss
Yeah.
in economic terms
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's going to be epic. The loss is going to be epic, but we're just not focusing there
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. Thank you, Sandra. I want to finish with one final question on your definition of success. Now that you have so many years of working with people who have ambitions, want to be successful, being inside companies, doing one-on-one coaching, and understanding that the definition of success is constantly changing. The bar is being raised higher and higher every year. If you could tell your best friend, your daughters, your family, what your definition of success is, what would you tell them?
That's a beautiful question. And this is something that is not easy to answer. Like, for example, success means different to different people. I'm going to share with what it means for me. And for me is when I'm sitting and I take a moment to reflect today, looking at how my feeling, my life is running, my life, not work, my life overall. Am I feeling good about it? And if today is my last day on this planet, and obviously there's a lot of things we still want to do, but if today is my last in the planet, will I be really fearful that I haven't done so many things? Or will I say, I think up till now, I am at peace with what I've achieved is success for me. So if today is my last day, I'm at peace that what I've achieved so far, that's success for me. And in my coaching sessions or whenever I speak to people, I say it's beautiful to have goals. You want to reach a certain position, you want to earn so much, you want to get financial stability. All of them are important. Maslow's hierarchy, it is the foundation. So you need to look at it. But create a life purpose statement. If you don't have a life purpose statement, where am I going towards? So even if your life purpose, and I remember in 2012, I made a life purpose statement, it didn't change. And when I created it, I had no idea how to achieve it. And it was, I started with, I am in a constant state of joyful learning and thrive in helping people achieve their potential. And this was before I was life coach, before open. I had no idea. So I was like, okay, this came up for me. Now what do I do with it? I could be a physiotherapist. I could be a psychologist. How do I reach it? And because I had that big path, I felt signs open, doors open, and I went towards it. And before preparing for this podcast, I was just going through my life statement. It's on my desktop. And I was smiling because this was 11 years ago. I was not on this path. And I'm smiling because I'm living it today. And so if today is my last day, I feel I'm successful, even though I still haven't met my financial targets or whatever I want to do in life, but I feel successful. So feeling is really important in the space of success.
I love that. That's so beautifully said. This idea of being content while we are at work. And the way you said it was really so touching to hear you bring in this idea of if it was your last day.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that word content, feeling content today. That's success.
Yes. I love it. Sandra, thank you so very much for spending time with us today on the show. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pooja. I just enjoyed having this conversation with you.
Thank you.